Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. I'm Nori Love. My co host is Augie Nost, in case you're new to us. And we have an incredible guest tonight, one of our favorite people that comes to see us. He couldn't come fast and often enough as far as we're concerned. Augie's going to tell you about him in a minute. I just want to thank you for being here. I see you guys warming up the chat room already. If you have any questions later, please put them in capital letters and I will pass them on to our guest. And I want to invite you, if Tuesday night isn't enough for you on Broadcast Team Alpha, we also have a Friday evening, 7:30 really quick show. It's a little bit different than, our topics here on Tuesday night. It's very health oriented. It's called Quantum Wellbeing. It's health and well-being oriented. We would love for you to join us 7:30 p.m. right here, Quantum Wellbeing Show, Friday evening. It's about 45 minutes at the most. And we have, just incredible guests, just like tonight. So this Friday coming up, we're going to be talking about Edgar Cayce remedies, right? Because everybody's looking for healing assistance other than in the traditional ways. I also want to invite you to join us on Sundays, 2 p.m. We have the Mastermind Connection, a group of incredible people, and the group just keeps growing. It is so amazing. We get together and we do a guided imagery, a very intentional visualization for the purpose of manifesting benevolent things in the world, right? We have worked on weather patterns. We've worked on fires. We've worked on lost dogs, 8 hours in the snow in Connecticut. And we've worked on some personal healing for people's family members that was nothing short of miraculous. So if you'd like to come, send an email to the Mastermind Connection, all one word, at gmail.com. Augie will send you the link. You can come hang out with us. And if you like it, you can come back every Sunday and join us. So without any further ado, Augie, let's talk about the amazing Tom Dongo.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Tom Dongo is returning to Broadcast Team Alpha. And, this is going to be good because we're going to talk about remote viewing, what it is, how it works, and why it works. And we're going to get into some stories. So don't touch the dial anytime in the next hour because this is going to be good. I want to say a few things about Tom, even though he may not need much of an introduction. But he is recognized as one of the leading experts in the paranormal, UFO, extraterrestrials, and remote viewing, which is his specialty. And he's a speaker at many national and international conferences. Tom has also authored, I think, 8 books now, and his last one, that is, it's called Merging Dimensions, I think, if I didn't get that right. Anyway, he's been on many national and international TV shows and over 40 international talk shows, so he is out there. So when he talks, we need to listen. And in this book about merging dimensions, there is a lot of pictures. I love books with pictures because one picture, that is worth more than 1,000 words. And there's 32 pages of photos in there, but you really need to see. I think the best thing to do is to go to Amazon, put Tom Dongo's name in there, and you get all the books, and that just poke around until you find something you can't live without. So that's the way to do it. Mm-hmm. And today we are going to talk about remote viewing. And maybe that you should get yourself a piece of paper and a pencil so you got something to write on, because there may be some things here that maybe you want to try. Because remote viewing is not that hard to learn.
No.
There is some sequences and things that may be good, but you can actually do this. You can sit in your own living room and get mental images and information about something or someone in Bucharest, Romania. It doesn't matter where you are, on the moon or on Saturn rings. It doesn't make any difference where you are because everything is connected. So Tom's gonna really educate us tonight. So welcome to the show, Tom.
Welcome, Tom. Yay.
Yeah, well, thanks, you guys. I love you, so I always love being on your show. It's always great. It's always exciting.
So great to have you. So great.
Yeah.
So people are very interested, and I mean, I know people have always been interested, but it seems like people are more and more interested in remote viewing now. And how did you get into it, Tom? How did that start for you?
Well, yeah, I've talked about this. I've been on, in next week, I'll be on the 80th worldwide radio show I've been on in 4 years. I figure about 50 million people. And I talk about this stuff, and I was born with the ability. I say I was probably a seer in Tibet, and I just brought it along with me. I think that's the only explanation, but I was born with a phenomenal remote viewing ability. It's different from the military version, and what is remote viewing? It's simply projecting your subconscious to a place, and time and distance has no meaning. I do it all the time. It's at least for me, it's simple. It's a very simple thing to do, and I basically describe what I do. That's what I teach, and Maureen St. Germain and I teach it occasionally, but we're both pretty overwhelmed with other projects. So we don't have another one coming up right away, but we've been very successful with it. And Maureen teaches the military version with coordinates, and I don't do that. That's not my way of doing it. And she, so I teach what she calls the Tom Dongo method, so we combine them. And it works good. We've created some amazing remote viewers. Good ones, really good ones, and I got to tell you this is some of these remote viewers we've trained. We were talking about the Titanic, and so we asked, where do you see the Titanic? It wasn't the Titanic that sank; it was her sister ship, and the Titanic is actually in port in England. And he said, I see it in port somewhere. He nailed that one. That's an extraordinary accurate hit. That's even for me, that would be so we were all asking people what they see on the bottom of the ocean, and what about the Titanic, and everybody was talking, seeing what they saw, but he said, I see it in a port, it's up at a dock, and it is. It's yeah. So some of them have had some amazing hits that we've trained, and some people are natural remote viewers. I've had people talk to me, and afterwards, and they're confused, and I say, you are a very accomplished remote viewer, and you don't realize that the things that you've told me, and so they walk away very encouraged. But I said, you're a top-notch remote viewer. You got it. You don't, you're there. So at any rate, I think remote viewing is an ability we all once had, and we've outlived it. We've forgotten how to do it, because it should be a natural ability that we all have. And if I could, if I could give it away, look, we were talking about earlier, a lot of people charge $5,000 a person to learn remote viewing, and Maureen and I only charged maybe 5% of that much, 5,000. So I just think it's a shame that more people should be able to learn it, because if people knew what I see, everybody would want to be a remote viewer, and so, and I've tried to. Yeah, go ahead, Nori.
Can you give us a little insight into a little bit of what you see?
Oh gosh, it's like having a third eye. I'm going to tell you a story that really still blows me away. When Ingo Swann was at his peak, a remote viewer, basically what I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Ingo Swann and Russell Targ through their writings. So anyway, Ingo, see, the beauty of remote viewing is if somebody tells a story, you can go there. You can see what that they were actually looking at. I've done it many, many times. And I really don't like it when somebody talks about a murder because I have to be there. I have to go there and watch it. You know, it's irresistible. It's irresistible. So Ingo, a government, intelligence man, I guess. He asked Ingo, "So we want to take you somewhere to see something because we don't know what it is. We want to try to explain it. You want you to explain it." So it was in Alaska, and so they blindfolded him, and they flew him and drove him, and it was a remote part of eastern Alaska. And he later found out that the natives have known about this for a long time, but they're scared to death to talk about it. So anyway, they take Ingo's mask off, his blindfold off, and they long hike up into the mountains. So they as I'm watching this myself, I can see it. You know, I can see what they saw. And so they hunker down in this a lot of big trees, and there's a lake there. And he said, the guide said, "Be quiet. Everybody be quiet. Don't make a sound." So this orb-like thing starts to form, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's enormous. And it starts shooting at things, beams. It's killing animals is what it's doing. It's eliminating all the animals in range of that ship or whatever it is. So their guide said, "Duck, duck, duck! It's seen us." So they jumped down to a ditch, and it blew the limbs off a tree right where they were standing with a beam. Now this is all true. This is Ingo Swann. I'm not making this up. So and then the ship starts sucking water out of this. You know, it's absolutely pure water, a lake in Alaska, and it sucks an enormous amount of water out of that lake, about half the water. And then it just their guide said, "We've got to get out of here right now." So they hunkered down and ducked down and ran as fast as they could to get out of there. Because the guide said, "We have to get out of here right now because it knows we're here." So I'm there watching them. And I'm having a good time with this because I can see the whole thing. And what is the ship? I have no idea. Some things you can remote view, and there's just no way you can understand it. So there's just no way. I've done it many times. There's nothing in our psyche that will explain what you're seeing. So it's kind of you know, I've had friends that were, you know, remote viewers like me, and they've all moved away. So I don't have anybody to play with around here. You know, I would love it if everybody was a remote viewer. I'd love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Are you teaching any classes or are you too busy?
No, I've got some really big projects going on. One could get enormous. I really can't talk about it. And my book, Merging Dimensions, I am actually under a non-disclosure agreement not to talk about my book. And that's all I can say about it. It's a really big deal. Wow. But in about 4 months, it's going to come out nationwide. Okay. And then I can talk about it. But I got into trouble once already. I put something on the internet, and the main person called me up instantly. I mean, this thing was getting like 100 hits every 10 minutes, likes. So he said, you know, what you put on the internet, it comes down right now. And I saw I'm kind of. He said, I signed legal papers probably half an hour, a ton of them. After a while, I gave up. Just give me the next one, I'll sign it. I don't know what it is.
Wow.
Yeah. So he said, you signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. And I said, oh, I did. And he said, yeah. So what you put up comes down right now. Then I did. So that's all I can say about it. But it's going to be broadcast nationwide in about 4 months. So it's going to be, I don't even know what it is for sure. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, when your new book comes out, Tom, we'd love to have you come talk about it with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but
if I wanted to remote view, how would I begin? Would I get a book? Should I contact somebody, or what
yeah,
would you recommend?
I get asked that all the time. There's a bunch of books written about remote viewing. So read a book first, so you get a basic understanding about it. Because I've been in big audiences, and I'll say everybody that knows what remote viewing is, raise your hand. Only about half the people. So that means
Wow.
the others have no idea what remote viewing is.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I can one of the things I like to do, I haven't done it for quite a while, but I like to go in 1,000 years in the past, because the
Wow.
air was pure. The air was pure, very pure. Flowers, the smell of flowers was incredible. There's no pollution in the air. And I like to
Oh,
just sit in a village and watch things going on. I mean,
that's amazing.
there was some good smells, but some very bad ones, because they threw this sewage out in the middle of the road. So yeah, so
Right.
I wish, so tonight, maybe I'll tell people how to do it. And instantly, I've been proven. I had a friend of mine, he's a psychologist. He and I worked together for about 5 months. He was in Durango, Colorado, and I was in Sedona. And we went back and forth. He was testing me to see how good I was. He's a psychologist, PhD psychologist. And my hit rate was way higher than the average. I think the average is 71%, something like that. Mine was way higher than that.
Wow.
And I used to, his dog could see me. And
Wow.
his little dog Binky, as soon as I popped into the room, that damn little dog could see me, and so he'd follow me around. And when we first started this, he had a beautiful house in Durango up on a mesa, and the San Juan Mountains in the background, just beautiful. So when I went to his house, I'd project myself there, and I would appear over the driveway right by his second story office window. I'd go through the window like a ghost. Actually, how I did things, I think that's the same way a ghost sees it. Same thing I could see, because some of it was opaque, some of it wasn't very clear. So I'd drift through his window and go his stairs that went down and around, and sometimes he'd be ready for me, and sometimes he wouldn't. He was a gourmet chef, and he was always cooking something, so I would wait. Or he wouldn't tell me where he was, and I'd have to go looking for him. He was usually out in his garden, and then the dog would chase me. And I
That's
said,
funny.
I said, you little blank blank, you can actually see me. And I put my face right down. I put my face right down to the dog, and he's going, looking right
Aw.
at me. Yeah. So anyway, I'd find Tom, and I'd call him, and I'd say, I'm here. So he put stuff on his dining room table, and I discovered that if it was in the sun, I could see them clearly. It didn't matter what it was. But if they were in the shadows, I had a very hard time seeing them. I still don't know why that is, but it made it easier for me to see things if you put them in the sun in Durango, and I was in 350 miles away. So I would drift around. It got so that it was so comfortable with him and I doing this, and he had an aviary on the side of the house. He had 100 birds, tropical birds in it. It's
Wow.
humidified, and that whole deal. And I used to
Yeah.
love to go in there, and because I could feel it. I was there. I could feel the humidity, and the birds would all flock around me. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, they were hopping on branches, around me, and I'd walk around through there, and I just had fun doing that. That's the kind of stuff you can do if you're a remote viewer, at least me, anyways. So I've tried to teach so many people, and I think people make it complicated, because for me it's so simple. I mean, it's so simple. Just project yourself. So anyway, I'll right now I'll start to tell you how I do it, the way I teach it. So I use this analogy. If you live in New York City and you grew up in a farm in Kansas, and it's even better if your parents or your relatives are still in that farm. And you know, particularly if you can tell them what you're doing. Some people, you know, you can't because they think you're a nut job, you know.
Right.
But yeah, but you know, so I would say just keep going to, and it's easy to do this, you know. And so go to that farm in Kansas, park yourself somewhere out on the lawn or somewhere, and then look around. This is critically important. Look around. Is it sunny? Is it cold? Is it raining? Is it snowing? And then let yourself be absorbed in that, and then start looking around, and it will be like it'll become clearer, and usually it's very opaque first, like a dream, but then it gets clearer and clearer and clearer, and you're there. You're actually there. And I had a woman friend that she did this. Her daughter was in Hawaii, and this woman knew she was a good remote viewer. And she'd go there and materialize in her daughter's apartment, and she's just sitting there with her doctor, but she was in California, and her daughter finally said, "Mom, don't do that anymore. You're driving me nuts." You're so I don't know. It can be so much. Your remote viewing can be so much fun, you know, especially if you got somebody to do it with, you know.
Oops. It would be fun to, you know, while people are learning and practicing, to, you know, set up with another group of people at another location, you know, to try and plan on meeting them there. You know, we had Russell Targ, we had him on twice, and guys who are watching, go back, you know, in the YouTube videos, we've had Russell on twice, you know, way back in the day. He gave us, you know, the military perspective on remote viewing and how he trained the CIA. Was it the CIA or the FBI or somebody?
Oh, probably all of them.
Yeah, amazing.
Probably all of them.
Amazing. So I would imagine that part of it is that you've got to get into lower brain waves, right? You got to get out of the chattery mind. Analytical mind, right?
Yeah. You have to be able to clear your mind. I mean, you know, stop the chatter and focus. I mean, that's why I tell people the history of meditation is very important for somebody to quiet their mind and then focus and then look, you know, because, you know, so many of us we can't shut the chatter off, and it's hard for me sometimes, and sometimes I haven't gotten a wink of sleep all night because I just can't shut my damn brain off, you know. So yeah, you know, so yeah, no, it's you know. So anyway, the Kansas thing, you know, you keep doing that, and you know, then you say, "Hey, Dad, is there a new car in the yard? It's blue," and he'll say, "Yeah, how did you know?" Because I did that with my friend Tom in Durango. He was he had a neighbor. And one day I went to Tom's place. His name was Tom O'Donnell. He's a PhD psychologist. And I went to Tom's place in Durango, and I said, "Hey, Tom, what's that brand new green tractor doing under your porch?" And he said, well, sheepishly, he said, "Well, I'm not supposed to talk about this, but my next door neighbor bought it, and he doesn't want his wife to know about it. So he parked it under my garage until he."
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. So how would we begin? How would I begin?
Well, just that. If it was some place that you could, like, you know, a farm in Kansas, wherever you grew up, any nice place. And some people say, "Well, I love France. I love Paris." Well, do that. You know, just go to one place. Don't focus on one place. Excuse me. You know, and just keep doing that. And the interesting thing is, and it'll scare the hell out of you the first time, but it's wonderful fun. You'll actually be there. Your body will be back here, but your psyche will be there, and you'll go, my God, what is this? They'll realize that their body's back there. Oh, I got to tell a story. I have endless stories. I've told this before about 1 million times, but this one's great. Huh? Yeah. So anyway, Joe McMoneagle, he was a top government remote viewer at the time. Yeah, I've told this story probably 1 million times, but I have so much fun with it. So he and I were standing. There was a group of people, and he was standing right next to me. And I was going on alien spacecraft out in space and visiting with the aliens. And I thought, and there's been so many times I thought I was crazy. I mean, like, I've got to be insane. This can't be real. So I'm thinking this, I'm going out there and visiting alien spacecraft. And when you approach an alien spacecraft, if they seem friendly, then just keep going. But if you get a warning, stay away, don't come any closer, you don't. You leave immediately. So,
yep.
I'm thinking I'm crazy for sure. And so Joe McMoneagle starts talking about the best government remote viewers are doing the same thing I'm doing. So Joe is on I love this story. So he did something. I'm going, you dummy. I mean, that's what you did that's crazy. He got warned to stay away from an alien spacecraft, and he went on it anyway. So they grabbed him and put him in a cage. It was like glass, but he couldn't get out of it. So his body's down here, and his psyche's up there, a million miles up in space, and he's freaking out. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I think, you dummy, you made a mistake like that. So anyway, after a while they let him go, and he said it was very, he did two tours in Vietnam. He got shot up real bad in Vietnam, and he said that ship was one of the scariest things that he ever did. So wow. Then I'm thinking, I'm not crazy. I'm really not crazy. The government stop remote viewers are doing the same thing I am.
Mm. So Tom, if you're there, what's the difference between remote viewing and astral travel?
I get asked that all the time. Well, astral travel, you're taking the body. I really don't know, to tell you the truth. It's so close. I really don't know. But astral, you're basically taking your subconscious with you. But remote viewing, you're projecting. You're projecting your part of yourself out there, and it's not really astral travel. But it's hard. That's a tough one. So it's so close.
Well, with astral travel, you're sleeping too. So, and remote viewing, you're not, right?
No. Yeah.
So somebody Mr. Anderson in the chat room asks, is remote viewing time specific?
No. Oh, what you mean? You mean future or past? What does it say? What it means?
Yeah, maybe Mr. Anderson, please clarify what you mean. Thank you. Yeah. I'm sorry, Augie, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to just comment maybe on the astral travel part. I think remote viewing, as you're doing it, when you put your consciousness somewhere else, I think it is your consciousness that is going, and the consciousness has no limitation on distance, even though the astral body, when it leaves you, is connected to the physical body through a very tiny little silvery cord. If you go too far, you run out of astral substance, and then you can't go any further. So also the astral body has no intelligence of its own. It just works from memory. So I think there's a difference between the two of them, maybe in that way.
Well, I'd like to add to that. I have a bit of a fear about that. I've been so far out into space. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to find my way back. I've been very fearful of that. So I don't go too far out there, because I'm afraid I might get lost. So
stay in your yard.
Yeah.
There's a safety valve in the universe. You'll always find your way back. Think of yourself when you're laying in that bed or sitting in the chair. Visualize yourself, and then you're just coming back. That seems to work.
So Mr. Anderson did clarify. He was referring to viewing in the past.
In the past? No, you can't.
No?
Okay. No, not in the past, but you can go to the past and look around, but you can't go to the past. You're always in the present, always. But you can go the future or the past, but no, you can't go to the past and RV from there. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. But that's a good point. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Yeah. So you can't go back to the day that your mother was having you or something like that.
Yeah, I did. I watched when I was being born.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah. I watched when I was being, yeah, so, yeah. Yeah, so
Wow.
pretty weird. Yeah, and they had ether, and to this day, I get anywhere near ether, and I almost pass out. The ether,
Wow.
I could smell the ether when I remote viewed there. I could smell the ether, and it was horrible,
Isn't that
horrible.
interesting? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
When you
Wow.
went back to see yourself being born, do you think that that could have been breaching the linear time going back, or did you catch that image from maybe the Akashic records? And what do you think?
Yeah, good, very good point. I've tried to. Maureen Saint Germain teaches about the Akashic records, and I haven't been real good at accessing the Akashic records, but they're real. You've got to have a way to enter them, a permission to enter them, and I've never spent a lot of stuff. I can't spend much time on. It's just too time consuming. So I'll go there for a while, look around, and then that's it. I got to do something else. But I'll tell you something. How much we got? Lots of time. Yeah, we got about 25 minutes.
We're good.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something that I've been talking about lately, and I was I did a speaking gig a couple of weeks ago. There was about 180 people there, and I talked about it there, but I'm really uncomfortable talking about this. But, back in 1920, Charles Fort said, "We are somebody's herd of cattle." And he's right. We are. We're somebody's herd of cattle. How does that work? So anyway, I was talking to Brad Olson. He's probably the top speaker in the world now.
Yeah.
So Brad and I got into a bit of a friendly discussion about this. And, I have an ability. I'm going to talk about the missing 400, David Polides. Okay, now I have been able to remote view those people. And I challenge any remote viewer. I don't give a damn who they are. If you disagree with me, and if you're a real remote viewer, I'd be interested in your opinion. But no BS. There's too much BS out there. So anyway, in the video, the missing 400. He gave the name of the person and where they disappeared. So I was able to follow them. There's a lot more I could say, but some of the stuff I'm not going to talk about because it upsets people. So anyway, I was one guy in particular. Let me go back a ways. About 20 years ago, General Stubblebine was having a seminar in Denver, and he's probably the best remote viewers in the world were there. This is when I didn't really know what remote viewing was. I was just kind of dabbling with it. And he said, none of our remote viewers can get past the block. And I could. I knew I learned how to blocks. And I wanted to jump up and down. Yeah, me. I know. So anyway, so I kept my mouth shut. I just stayed sitting there. But I learned early on how to get past those blocks that remote viewers run into. So anyway, I was following this one guy, and this happened 2 or 3 times. A little 5-year-old kid. I did it. I guessed where he was, so I was following him. And somebody on the show I was on said, "Did you go up or did you go down?" Good point. I said, "No, we always went up, fast." And I've been thinking, why? That's an important key to this thing. So anyway, the guy, I was going, really fast, faster and faster and faster and faster. And somebody slammed on my brakes when I was following this guy. And so I'm kind of sitting out there in the ethers. And he said, I heard a voice said, "This is as far as you're going to go." And I'm looking around like I can easily get around that block. It's a natural block. You get blocked. You can't go any further. And I'm kind of sneakily looking around like maybe I'll sneak through. And the voice said, "Don't even try it." So if I did, what would happen to me? And who didn't want me to see what was on the other side of that block? That bothers me a lot. It
Right.
really does. So I don't know. I have no idea, but they said, the voice said, don't even try it. So what is it they didn't want me to see?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, I'll throw that out there,
Yeah. So
but
that brings the question of what we kind of opened up a little bit before the show. If we are sovereign, can we declare, intend, surround ourselves, with a psychic energetic shield so that we can't be remote viewed?
no,
No.
no, you can't. I've been, this is kind of a long story, but the SciTech, way back, the government remote viewers, it was a government team. They call themselves SciTech. I got a letter. I still got the letters, and one of those remote viewers, he's a good friend of mine now, and I said, you guys were remote viewing me back then. Why? I mean, I was some unknown schmuck in Sedona, Arizona, with a little bit of paranormal stuff in one book, and he kind of laughed. He said, "We were never remote viewing him. So we weren't remote viewing you. So next time I saw him, I said, 'You see these, Ron? These are letters you sent me. You signed them.'" And he says, "I did. I don't remember that at all." He's one of my best friends now. So I couldn't. And then there was people have remote viewed me. You can't stop them. They're going to do it.
Yeah.
I've been asked that a lot lately. You can't stop them. The best you can do is just let them, whatever they're looking at, So no, you can't stop them.
So we have a question, Tom, from Rick Keefe. Can Tom describe 2 examples of setting a goal of what he wanted to see and learn on a remote viewing session, and then what actually happened and what you may have seen that surprised you? Maybe you saw something that you didn't expect to see.
Yeah, yeah. Being a remote viewer, now this is one of the downsides. It isn't all perfect. The downsides are I've had watched girlfriends having sex with another man, and I've also been in a situation where somebody was, for instance, I'm not going to go into specifics, but her friend's 9-year-old daughter was murdered, and I was right there at the site where the girl, and the guy he was having fun killing the girl. And I had to watch it, and I had to feel everything. I could hear what she said, I could hear what he said, and then he killed her. He hung her. So the only reason they found her, she had her cell phone in her pocket. And so anyway, I watched that whole damn thing, and I said, "That's it for me. No more murders," because I've solved a couple of murders, and I say never again. I tell people, no murders. I will not. So don't ask.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I solved a few murders. A whole family came from Florida once, and I had the flu. I was very sick, but they'd come to see me. So I said, "Well, sick or not, I'm going to go." And they paid me, I don't know, was some amount of money, but they had their brother was murdered in Miami, and I told them who did it. I didn't know his name, but I described the guy perfect. They were going something like, "Oh my God, that was Uncle George." Because I described him. I said, "In the pistols in a canal outside of Miami, and you're never going to find it, no matter what, because it's so deep in the mud now, you'll never find it." But so anyway, no more murders. It's so energy draining. It's just for me. It's maybe there's a lot of people that do that for the police and all that. I couldn't do that because I would have no energy. So, but watching murders is one, and some things spontaneously, you suddenly see it, but you got to deal with that. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's part of remote viewing. It isn't all, it isn't all fun and games and and icing on the cake. So, yeah.
Right. So if you go looking, you're going to have to be responsible to see whatever you see.
Yeah.
So
If you want to go. Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So Marius asks, do you ever use the silver cord attachment to have a clear link? Boy,
that's a really good question. I spent quite a bit of time at the Berkeley Psychic Institute in Santa Cruz, California. So I learned a lot of stuff. And whenever somebody's watching you, it's not a silver cord is when you're out of body, but they will leave a stream of energy to you. And if you can find that stream of energy, because I was trained how to do that at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, you can find those people. For me, it's easy. If they're thinking about you, they're gonna connect you with a stream of energy. So, yeah. But this stuff gets complicated. I mean, it really does. But yeah, if you learn to find that stream of energy, you can find them. I'll tell you a quick story. I was at the airport in Sedona, me and my endless stories, right? So I was walking up to the airport, and suddenly I stopped. I said it was an alarm was going off around me. So I stopped and concentrated, and I found a stream of energy going to Europe, and it was Hungary, I think. And anyway, so I followed it, and I'm suddenly in this room looking down at a man and a woman. They were all dressed in black, and they both had black hair, and they both turned their heads up and started smiling. I caught them. I could see them. They were just blown away that I could see them.
Wow.
So could I stop them? No. And the intelligence people are even better. They have ability. There are people in the CIA and FBI and the Russians, and I was heavily involved with the Soviets when they were with the UFO researchers and such. So I knew just about everything the Soviets knew. So anyway, they have people, remote viewers, and when the Americans started doing remote viewing and the Russians would remote viewing the Americans, one group was dying of brain hemorrhages, and the other group was dying of heart attacks. Why? Why? But you research the books, and it's right there. They were trying to figure out how to do as much damage to each other as they could. And one group was dying of brain hemorrhages, and the other heart attacks. Not everybody, but enough. So but that doesn't happen anymore. That I've never run into that in the last 20 years, I guess.
Wow. And before, Tom, you were talking. I'm sorry. One more question, Augie. I'm sorry. Yeah. Before you were talking.
Go ahead, Nori.
Before you were talking about the block that was put up, Indigo is asking, who puts those blocks up? Who tells you can't go any further?
Oh, good question. There are beings out there that have abilities so far beyond us we can't even begin to understand them, because I've glimpsed them. I mean, some of these beings that are around us have abilities that they're maybe 5 or 10,000 million years ahead of us. And wow. I've been face to face with a couple of them, and I don't have the intelligence to even comprehend them.
Wow.
I asked one, I said, will you let me scan you? Can I? And so it was a humanoid. It was a human. So he says, have, have fun. So I did. I tried. I could penetrate into him, his psyche just a little bit. But what I did learn is they are so far ahead of us that what they can do, we have no way to understand it. We just not.
Wow.
We're not advanced enough to understand it. I mean, we're really. Yeah. Go ahead.
I could imagine these beings are there going, "Oh, look, there's those cute little
Yeah. Oh, let's play with some Earth humans for a while. Let's see if they figure this out." And bam, everybody's going, and they're not called the tricksters for nothing.
Wow.
In the process of doing this, let me try to retrace your train of thinking, getting into the process of the viewing. You should probably just clear your mind through meditation or whatever works for you, and then find a destination or something that you want to concentrate on, and then visually or in your mind project you sit there and look around, see your surroundings, and as well as then, where do you go from there?
Good question, Augie. The thing, I tell people, you think you're imagining it, but you're not. Use your imagination, because your imagination will create reality, will create the reality. So go ahead and imagine it. As long as as long as it's positive, it's good. So, but they think, oh, I'm just imagining that. It's just false belief. I'm not really seeing it, but you are. Isaac Asimov said, with a great writer, he said, anything you can think is real somewhere. And anything you can create in your mind is real somewhere. And he's right.
Yeah. So somebody asked, H asked, how far have you gone planetary wise, Tom?
Well, I had a friend that she moved about 20 years ago, and she was a government trained psychic and remote viewer. She worked at Los Alamos. A few of her friends died mysteriously, so she was so scared they killed her. And I know the story now. I know why they did. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but
okay. Yeah.
But I'm not going to get into that. So, where were we? What was the question? I forgot.
How far have you gone planetary wise?
Yeah. Well, I've visited planets and the life forms out there. Aliens call this the planet of sorrows. And they're right in a lot of ways. They call this the planet of sorrows, because some of those planets, there's no. People aren't killing each other right and left. They really live the way they should live. They eat good. They live good, creative lives. So I've been able to go to some of those places, but again, I'm kind of afraid I'm going to get trapped there. These places. So, but when I had my friend Anea, we'd go to these places, and we both were kind of with each other, so we kind of protect each other. Defend each other. So we figured we'd find the way back somehow. But if you get out there too far, at least me anyway, from remote viewer, you really wonder if you can get back. It's a touchy thing. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Adrian asked a really good question. Yeah. Go ahead, Augie. You go.
Have you been able to go into the future and see happenings in the future? You can come back with a memory of?
The future is such a mess right now. I got at this conference I was just at, I had to be honest. If way things are right now, if it doesn't change for the better, for the more positive, we are going to be in big trouble in the future. If it stays the way it is, if things, the wars and Ukraine and all that stuff, if something doesn't change that for the better, for good, we're going to be in big trouble. So I told the audience, I said, I hope, somebody, that's a wayshower can take the reins and change it. It might be anybody, but yes. It's not looking for me as a remote viewer. And if I go into the future, it's so chaotic. I go into the past and I can see it is exactly as it is. But if I go into the future, it's just it's all over the place. It's just like,
So a different question.
Yeah.
Adrian asks, if you can remote viewer viewing you, why can't you tell them not to view you? Does that depend on their level of expertise?
I can do that. And I said, well, I'll get into extraterrestrials because I've been studying my real forte is human extraterrestrials. And I've been around a lot of them. And you think about an extraterrestrial and they're going to hear you. So I've said, I almost got abducted once. And I won't say the 4-letter words I said, but I said, don't even try it. Don't even try it. I warned them. I said, don't even try it. And they didn't. The ship left. Because the ship, it was following me, and it was typical abduction scenario. And I got pissed, and I said, don't even try it. And it left. The ship flew off, big ship. So
that's great.
Yeah. You get me into extraterrestrials, we'll be here for the next 2 weeks.
That's great. So when you're there, remote viewing, can you do something Nancy asks? Like, can you move the clock, or can you do anything like that?
That's a really good question.
Yes.
No, I'm going to say no, because I've thought about that a lot, and I would have to say no. You wouldn't be able to change anything. So no, I'd have to say no with that. But there's possibility. Somebody with a really strong remote viewing or psychic ability probably could.
Wow. Yeah. Have you ever been attacked when you were remote viewing? Have you ever been attacked or accosted or anything?
I've almost died in the last 2 years. First, I was poisoned at a conference, and I was blind for 2 weeks. Somebody poisoned me for some reason. A doctor in Flagstaff, Arizona, cured me. He was a psychic, a fantastic psychic. And then for some reason, an artery in my nose, there's an artery on one side of your nose, one side of the other. And I used to be a paramedic, and the blood was pouring out of my mouth and my nose so bad I couldn't stop it. And the nurse told me if the hospital had been 10 more miles, I wouldn't have made it. So this is all a bonus. I mean, this is all a bonus. This every minute is a bonus now, because I twice I almost died. I'm very close, but I'm still here.
Yay! Yay!
Yeah. No.
Yay! Wow! Wow! I'm glad you're here. My goodness. My goodness.
So did that have anything to do with remote viewing? I don't know. And a doctor said, that's pretty unusual that vein broke twice.
Right.
In a 2-week period. He said, so did something do that to me? They wanted me to get rid of me. And there's a friend of mine, Cope Shellhorn. He's a professor in Brazil, wrote a book about how many UFO researchers have been killed, died mysterious. And I think it's 250. It's Cope Shellhorn. I haven't seen him in 20 years, but he wrote a book about how many UFO researchers have died mysteriously. And it's a lot.
Yes. Yes.
They know how to clean the slate.
Yeah.
Wow. So Linda asks, have you ever been recognized after remote viewing somebody? I guess maybe if you remote viewed somebody that and you saw each other and they go, hey, did you remote view me? Or
no. That would fall into coincidences. And somebody that I remote viewed, I have to say no. Not that I know of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Interesting.
But I really hope, I wish I could, and I tried it. One night I had 35 wonderful people. I was teaching a group, and I told them about remote viewing. And I have amazing abilities. I can see into a human body like an X-ray machine. And I used to be able to scan a person's mind. In 5 minutes, I could tell them their whole life, 5 seconds. I mean, it's stuff like that. So I told this group, there were about 35 people. We were on a wonderful estate in Sedona, a nice, beautiful night, and UFOs showed up. 4 of them showed up, and one woman took a picture of a being standing right beside me. So it was an interesting night. But so I said, you know what? I'll try. I'll never do this again. But I said, you know what? I want to give you guys my abilities, because I'm 78 years old. How much longer am I going to be around here? So I did. I sat quietly. I opened myself, and I said, I'm giving you all my abilities. Take them. I'm giving them to you, no charge. Wow. And after that, they were buying my books and giving me $100 bill for keep the change. So I made $1,000 on tips that night. So anyway, I was so drained. It took me 3 days. I I was absolutely drained of energy for 3 days. So but I asked them later, did any of you guys, did it work? And because they've emailed me, for the last, it was 3 years ago now. So they have had experiences, but not sort of psychic kind, just nice experiences. So, so I tried.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Did it work though? Were they able to pick it up?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I gave it to them and they took it, and I don't know, has it developed for them, now? I don't know, but it was, hard on me, poor old guy like me,
Wow. So, what is the best book right now to pick up on remote viewing?
Oh, there's so many. Ingo Swann or Russell Targ, one of those two.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm telling you guys, go back into our archives. We have 2 shows with Russell Targ before he left the planet. He's not in the physical anymore, but yeah. And Tom, I hope you hang around for a long time. We love having you here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's always wonderful being with you guys. I love you all to pieces. So anytime.
Love you too. I have a personal question.
Yeah.
Are you fully human?
If you read my book, so many really the blinds, so the lights on me. I've been asked that so many times, and I'm beginning to wonder. I mean, I didn't tell you this. Oh shoot, how much time we go? We're almost up.
That's okay.
Real quick, I'll do this real quick. When I first came to Sedona, I was. This is back when I first came here. So I was at the Y. This is only a couple of 1,000 people lived here. So I was at the Y, and there was no traffic, nobody. So I looked around, and suddenly I looked over, and there's a guy standing there, all dressed in black, and he's got a huge duffel bag, and he's tapping on my window. Hey, buddy, can I have a ride? And I said, yeah, what the heck, hop in. I had a small Toyota sedan. So he piled in with that duffel bag. Oh, and I had just dropped a guy off. He was telling me this weird wacko story about little people riding on his feet when he went to his campsite. So this guy picked up exactly where that guy was talking about that I dropped off. That he was talking about the little feet on his little people walking with his feet. Picked up, and I'm going, by then I'm going, huh? What the hell is this? So the guy, he turns and looks at me and he yells, look at me, as hard as he could. So I'm looking at him, and he said, do you recognize me? And I said, well, no. And then this is what he said. He said, and then he said, can you remember this? And I said, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm lay it on me. So he said, this is what he said. He said, never, ever forget this. He said, I-M-E-T, the letters, I-M-E-T, time and Kenneth, K-E-N-N-E-T-H, and the circle K. This is what he told me. And then he just goes right back to sitting there, and talking about the weather or something like that. So I'm going, because I'm just dumbfounded. Wow. So I dropped him off in West Sedona. Who was he? He was black. He was all dressed in black. His eyes were black. Who was he? I don't know. So that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that happens to me.
That's interesting. That's great.
Yeah, the blinds are really flapping there.
Yeah. Well,
I saw the question in the chat room about what is the best book out there now to learn remote viewing from.
I read Ingo Swann's book and Russell Targ's, and they don't say so much how to do it. But the one I did read, and I can't remember who. Might have been Ed Dames. It was a thick book, and I read the whole thing. So it gives you a good idea of what the government's doing. And incidentally, there was a friend of mine, he was a government remote viewer, and he said, teach me your technique. So I did, and he taught his 10-year-old kid, and his kid had 100% hit rate using my technique. And he said, I'm just absolutely blown away. Your technique is way better than the government. So
you need to put something together so people can read more about your technique.
Yeah, I know. I never get the time. Yeah.
in your spare time.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have. So, Tom, I know you don't take emails anymore because you're overloaded with emails, but
Yeah.
how can people find you and your books? And
Well, Amazon, they're on. Most of them are going out of print. But Merging Dimensions is my big one. I mean, that's really getting to be a big seller. Merging Dimensions, and it's really getting to be a big seller. So I highly recommend that. That will be in print for a long time. It's going into its third printing now, but my publisher's she's retiring, and so most of my books are going out of print, so they're going to be out of print permanently pretty soon. So I'll have 3 or 4 left, but I had 8. Yeah.
wow.
let me change that blind just for a second here.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
We have about 1 minute left, Augie. Yeah.
No, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we got a minute left, and then we got over. But I suggest for the listeners, just go to Amazon, put Tom Dongo in the search bar, and watch what comes up, because it's all there.
Yeah.
Mm. All right, everybody. Tom, thank you so much. It's always so great to see you. Always so great to have you. Thanks, Mac. Thanks, Augie. Thanks, everybody in the chat room. The chat room was off the charts tonight. Really exciting. And we'll be back next Tuesday, of course. And in the meantime, you can stop by Friday night, 7:30. We're going to be talking about some of Edgar Cayce's remedies. You guys don't know this, but I kind of... I moved to Virginia Beach when I was 18 and a half years old, and I kind of grew up at the Edgar Cayce Foundation, which is now known as the Association for Research and Enlightenment. And I was actually a hairdresser then, and I cut his son's hair, Hugh Lynn's hair. So I have a warm place in my heart for his remedies. So we're going to talk about them. It's a quick half hour, Friday night, 7:30. Come hang out with us. And thanks so much for being here, guys. We appreciate you all so much. So much love to you, and take care of each other. Thanks, Tom.
Love you. See ya.
Love you too.
Thank you, Tom, for being with us.
Yeah.